you gave some investment advice in different places, like not financial advice, but just like advice for the young investors, someone in their 20s or 30s. And one thing you said earlier is you got to know when to buy, and you got to know when to hold particular assets too, and to like ride them up and just let them go. What's your advice for someone listening who's in their 20s and 30s, where, the year 2024, government debt is ballooning out of proportion. We got this new crypto asset class. Do you have anything general that you would leave folks with? Like if you were giving advice to yourself in this climate and you were in your 20s, what would you say?
Yeah, listen, first know what you can lose, right? And so you shouldn't put 100% of your money in crypto. The very first thing every young person should do is find a place in a community they think is growing and take an FHA loan. So let the feds guarantee your mortgage and buy a house. It's, like don't buy an expensive house, buy a house with a mortgage payment you can afford, but in a place where you think there's growth, because that's the first time you get free leverage, right? It's non-recourse, and you can get leverage. And it teaches you what leverage is, right? I put $10,000 or $25,000 on a $300,000 house, and the house goes to $400,000. I've made $100,000 on a $25,000 bet, less my interest. So I 4x my money, even though the house only went up 30%. Like, oh, all right. Now, leverage can be really dangerous. I always thought it was the definition of insanity that people were taking, 25 to 1 leverage on crypto when it was already a 70% vol asset. That was like crack cocaine on top of heroin. And so with the coins they own, you never go break taking some profit. And so you buy something, it goes up triple, sell a third, take your money back. And so I in general have sold. Listen, at one point I looked like a fool. If I told you how much Ethereum I owned when it was 15, you'd throw up and you'd be like, oh my God, I was the richest guy on the planet. And of course I sold a whole long way. And in some ways I wish I hadn't, but I also bought a jet and I added tons of utility. I started big charities. And so I don't look back and say, oh, that jet cost me so much. I was like, how lucky I was to have stumbled on this token, ridden it up from 1 to 300, right? Sold a bunch and bought a jet and started a charity. It's 3,000 now, 3,500. And so my jet is 10X. You can't think that way. And so I do think taking profits is important. And then having some core. Very few things become Google. Very few things will become Bitcoin or Ethereum, right? And so when you have a new token that goes racing up to some FDV that's really high and it's 6 months old, sell it. Rotate it back into Bitcoin as your kind of core holding, or sell half of it, right? Look at the supply structure coming out. So many of these things with high market caps only are, 20% of the tokens are floated, and there's this huge unlock calendar coming, right? So your core positions should be in tokens that are already fully distributed, right? There's going to be sellers and buyers in Bitcoin, but it's distributed, right? Whereas WorldCoin, for instance, has a monster inflation and a monster lockup schedule. And so when it ran way up, it was one of the easiest shorts on. I didn't short it. I borrow whatnot. But I look at it and you're like, oh, it ran up on Sam Altman AI. It got to crazy market cap. And you knew in the next 2 years, everyone who had it was going to be able to sell it. It's human nature. If you bought something at 100 and it's now 1,000, and Ryan's like, oh my God, I can buy a house for my wife. Yeah, buy the house. And so in these giant moves, people will sell. And so if they're locked up tokens and they're coming unlocked, they're going to sell them. And so again, core positions in distributed tokens, trading positions, and venture positions, you got to take profit along the way.
If you enjoyed all of that, then you'll absolutely love the Bankless newsletter. Join over 300,000 fellow readers, all for free. Click below to sign up.